Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a group of invisible, man-made chemicals. They're in our products, they're in our environment, and almost certainly they're inside your body right now. They're called PFAS.
And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, let's start with a fact from the Environmental Working Group. This isn't some distant, abstract threat. The research is clear. These compounds are already in the blood of nearly every single American.
So, you hear that, and it immediately raises some pretty big questions, right? We've been using these things since the 1940s. So what exactly are they? And what does it actually mean for our health that they're inside of us?
To really get to the bottom of this, we have to start with the science. We need to understand the unique chemistry that gives these things their infamous nickname, forever chemicals. Because that's the key to this whole story. Why they just don't go away.
You see, PFAS isn't just one single chemical. It's a massive family, literally thousands of different compounds. And they became super popular because they were great at resisting heat, water, and oil. That made them perfect for everything from nonstick pans and stain-resistant carpets to food wrappers and even heavy-duty firefighting foam.
So, what's their secret? Well, it all comes down to their molecular structure. They're built around a carbon-fluorine bond. And that bond is one of the strongest in all of organic chemistry. Think of it like a molecular chain made of titanium. Nature just doesn't really have the tools to break it apart. And that incredible strength, well, that's exactly why they last forever. Right, so if a chemical doesn't break down in the environment, it's not going to break down in our bodies either. Instead, it builds up over time, a process called bioaccumulation. And that has led scientists to ask a really critical question. What happens to our health when we're exposed to these things day after day, year after year?
Well, when you look at the research from agencies like the ATSDR, a pretty troubling pattern starts to emerge. Studies have found statistical links between being exposed to certain PFAS compounds and a whole range of health issues. We're talking about everything from increased cholesterol and changes in liver enzymes, all the way to more serious outcomes, like a higher risk for kidney and testicular cancer.
All this evidence has pushed the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to a really stark conclusion. A lot like what we learned about lead, the EPA has determined that for some of the most common PFAS chemicals, there is no safe level of exposure. That means the potential for harm could exist at any level, no matter how tiny.
Okay, so if these chemicals are literally everywhere, and there's no safe level, the next logical question is, how do they actually get inside of us? Let's trace the pathway, from the factory all the way to us.
It's a complex cycle, not just one single source. You have industrial sites releasing PFAS straight into the air and water. Then you've got the consumer products we throw away, which end up in landfills where the chemicals can leach down into the soil and groundwater. And then you have major contamination events, like from firefighting foam used at airports, which can seep deep into the environment.
And you know, when scientists comb through all of the research, a couple of major culprits keep showing up again and again. Two sources consistently rise to the top as the biggest contributors: industrial manufacturing sites and those aqueous film-forming foams, also called AFF, that are used for firefighting. These are really the primary points of release. So all of this cycle, these sources, it all eventually leads back to us. And while we can be exposed through things like food packaging, consumer products, or even the dust in our own homes, the scientific consensus is pretty clear. For most people, the most significant and common way we're exposed is through contaminated drinking water. Okay, I know hearing all of this can feel a little overwhelming, but understanding the problem is just the first step. The point isn't to just be concerned, it's to be empowered. So now, let's pivot and talk about what we can actually do, the meaningful, achievable steps we can take to lower our personal risk. Since drinking water is the main route, the EPA really focuses on a clear three-step approach. Step 1, test your water. Find out what's in it by checking with your local utility or getting it tested by a certified lab. Step 2, if you have concerns, think about filtration. You can install in-home systems like activated carbon or reverse osmosis filters that are certified to reduce PFAS levels. And Step 3, know your other sources. Pay attention to local advisories about eating fish from nearby lakes or rivers, since PFAS can build up in wildlife. And it's not just about water. Simple choices you make at the grocery store can add another layer of protection. Because PFAS are sometimes used in food packaging to keep grease from soaking through, cutting back on highly packaged and processed foods can help minimize your potential exposure there too. So here's where we're left. We created a forever chemical for our own convenience without really understanding just how permanent it was.
Now the science on the risks is getting clearer and clearer, but the chemicals themselves, they aren't going anywhere. The question for us now isn't just what we'll do with this knowledge, but how we'll choose to manage a problem that we've made a permanent part of our planet.